Biological macromolecules are organic molecules needed for life. In science, organic means that it contains a hydrocarbon bond. So all those groceries you eat are actually organic, since all food contains hydrocarbon bonds. Water is inorganic because it lacks carbon, and carbon dioxide is inorganic because it lacks hydrogen. Biological macromolecules are of four classes: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Before getting into those, why is carbon so important?
All life that we know of is carbon-based, but why? Carbon has 4 electrons in its outermost shell, opportunities to bond to other elements, including other carbons. Because of this, carbon can make macromolecules that form long chains or even rings. This can then be used to formulate the biological macromolecules crucial in providing organisms with energy, aiding in biological processes, or being biological materials. The first of the biological macromolecules are carbohydrates, and while carbs have gotten a bad reputation lately for those seeking to lose weight, they are nonetheless important as an energy source for organisms. Carbs are also used to build biological structure, plants, fungi, and bacteria. Humans receive carbohydrates mostly by consuming plants, and they are found in 3 different forms. First are monosaccharides, also known as simple sugars, are the smallest of carbs, with glucose being the most common one encountered. Glucose is an important energy source for organisms to help build adenosine triphosphate molecules. ATP is then used to help organisms carry out varying cellular functions. Glucose is produced by photosynthesis, whereby a plant combines carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight. The energy of sunlight gets trapped in the chemical bonds of glucose and is later transferred to make ATP. Plants produce excess glucose, which is then stored as starch. Besides glucose, fructose and galactose make up the other monosaccharides. While all retain the C6H12O6 formula, the arrangement of the molecules differ slightly. Disaccharides are the result of 2 monosaccharides chemically bound together. This chemical bonding occurs when the OH group on one simple sugar is with a hydrogen ion on the other. Water is then formed, and this allows the 2 monosaccharides to bond together, in this case to make maltose. There are 3 types of disaccharides. Maltose is the bonding of 2 glucose molecules. Sucrose, or table sugar, is made from fructose and glucose, and lactose, or milk sugar, is made from glucose and galactose. Polysaccharides are the result of 3 or more monosaccharides chained together and can either appear branched or unbranched. Examples of polysaccharides include starch, glycogen, cellulose, and chitin. Starch is formed by plants that store long chains of chemically bound glucose molecules from photosynthesis. These are unbranched and appear linear. Glycogen is a branched chain of glucose molecules made by animals. These are stored in the liver and muscle cells as energy reserves. When glucose levels drop in animals, glycogen is broken down to release individual glucose molecules. If there is too much glucose, these molecules are then stored again as glycogen into the muscles and liver. Cellulose is a structural polysaccharide that forms the cell wall of plants. Cell walls provide protection and rigidity to the plant cells. Cellulose is not readily digestible by most animals, so it becomes part of our dietary fiber to help move food through the digestive tract. So in other words, it helps you Another polysaccharide is called chitin, which is made up of cell walls of fungi as well as the exoskeletons of many arthropods. Fats, also known as triglycerides, are made of 3 carbon glycerol on one end and 3 fatty acid tails. A fatty acid is a long chain of hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons store lots of energy, which is why lipids are an excellent energy source for organisms. Fatty acids can be saturated or unsaturated. Saturated fatty acids is a chain of hydrocarbons with only single bonds between them. These are typically solid at room temperature and derived from animals and some plants like coconuts. Butter, lard, and the fat found on meat is saturated. An unsaturated fatty acid has a hydrocarbon chain with at least one double bond. These are typically liquid or oily at room temperature and mostly derived from plants. Olive, canola, and sesame seed oil are all examples of unsaturated fatty acids. Phospholipids are really important at forming the plasma membrane around cells. This dictates what can enter and leave the cell. These contain a phosphate bound to a glycerol molecule and two fatty acid chains. Phospholipids form bilayers that contain a hydrophobic fatty acid tail and hydrophilic phosphate glycerol head region. This provides the defining border between the inside and the outside of the cell, allowing certain molecules through and keeping some out. Steroids fall under lipids due to their hydrophobic nature, but all steroids have a four-ring structure. Estrogen and testosterone are two sex hormones that are classified as steroids. Steroids can bring about hormonal changes. However, cholesterol is also considered a steroid. Cholesterol is necessary to develop certain lipid-soluble vitamins as well as break down fats in foods through bile salts. Bile is made in the liver and stored in the gallbladder to help digest fattening foods, since fat can't dissolve in water. Cholesterol is also important in strengthening cell membranes. Proteins are the most versatile organic molecules of living things. Not only do they serve as energy molecules, like carbs and lipids, but they also are used for structural, regulatory, transport, and storage as well. All proteins are made of amino acids, of which 20 exist. These form long chains, and the order and frequency of these amino acids dictate the structure and function of each protein. To be more specific, a string of amino acids is called a polypeptide. Some proteins are enzymes, which help speed up chemical reactions like digesting food. Each enzyme has a specific substrate or chemical that interacts with that enzyme. Enzymes can either break down large molecules into simple ones, such as the case with digestion, or they can form chemical bonds between smaller molecules to make larger molecules, such as in the case of building ATP. Some proteins are hormones or chemical signaling molecules that help regulate biological processes. Insulin is a hormone made by the pancreas to help keep blood glucose levels under control. Hormones can also be used for growth, metabolism, sexual reproduction, and development. Proteins have specific shapes for their defined tasks. In fact, structure dictates function is an important rule in biology. Hemoglobin proteins help carry oxygen in the blood, and thanks to the donut-shaped holes, they're able to do so. Actin and myosin proteins make up the contractile portion of your muscle fibers. Being fibrous in shape helps them to slide past one another, so that millions of them all together can help make a muscle contract. Proteins are subject to environmental conditions such as temperature, pH, and exposure to chemicals. When cooking an egg, the clear egg whites are made of a protein called albumin. As it heats up, the albumin denatures, turning the clear color white. These conditions can change the shape of a protein where it loses its functionality, and when this occurs, the proteins become denatured. And just like eggs, once they're cooked, you can't return them to that clear coloration. The last group are nucleic acids. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, and RNA, or ribonucleic acid, are the two main types of nucleic acids. DNA functions in the storage of an individual organism's genetics. Everything from eye color to the amount of insulin made after a meal is dictated by the genetic instructions stored in DNA. RNA is mostly involved in making proteins. DNA does not leave the protected space in the cell called the nucleus, but RNA can form a copy of the specific set of instructions on DNA. RNA then takes the copy to a nearby ribosome, which will then utilize these instructions to build amino acids, which will eventually make a protein. In this case, melanin, a protein used to darken skin and hair and pupils in mammals, was just formed. If you have brown hair, you have DNA that expresses for more melanin proteins that are made by those ribosomes. RNA also has many other regulatory processes for which we will talk about later.
Later on, I will be discussing the chemical structure of DNA and RNA, but now that we have reviewed the basic chemistry of life, let's delve into the structural and functional unit of life, the cell.